Hi, this is Matthew Wise with Founderly. We empower entrepreneurs to have a voice and share their story with the world, enabling others to learn about building products and starting companies. It's with great pleasure that I'm here today with Oliver Roop. Oliver is the founder and CEO of VigLink. VigLink is unintrusive content monetization for publishers. With that said, Oliver, we'd love for you to give our audience a brief bio.
Absolutely. I'm Canadian. I grew up in Toronto, and was definitely one of those kids who was into computers from birth. Always had a hard time with handwriting and was typing essays on a Commodore 64 in first grade. I went to MIT undergrad, which was just I knew that was where I wanted to go, and was a developer, and actually was here in San Francisco for the first boom. Worked as an engineer for a startup called Echo Networks, which was sort of the Pandora of its day. I spent 4 years at Microsoft. I went to business school, but I knew I always wanted to start a company at some point.
What makes VigLink unique? Who's it for, and why are you so passionate about it?
So start with who's it for. VigLink is content monetization for publishers. It's unintrusive. So the experiment that I did to start the company was I wrote a crawler to go look around the web and count links to Amazon and just count how many were enrolled in the affiliate program. If you don't know, the affiliate program is what gets you paid for sending traffic to merchants. And the interesting answer was less than 50% were enrolled. So people were already going to all the trouble of sticking links to Amazon in their content, and they weren't adding 10 bytes to the URL that would have gotten them paid. So we wrote a JavaScript library that publishers put in their page that identifies outbound links, not just to Amazon, but to any of about 18,000 merchants, and automatically monetizes them. We now also use sort of clever tricks to maximize that payment, using sort of middle parties. And we can also insert links into the content if the publisher wants. So that's the who's it for and what does it do. What makes it unique? I'd say we have a unique focus on really great analytics. The downstream impact of what people do after they read your content is really useful, and we can tell you what products they're buying, what they're shopping for, and publishers generally find that really interesting. Probably our canonical publishers are forums and communities. A lot of those conversations are of the form, I have $1,000 in my hand and I'm thinking about product A or product B, what do you guys think? Conversation ensues, that stuff ranks really well on Google. And really it turns out a lot of downstream purchases are made as a result of that conversation, and we help the publisher monetize it totally seamlessly. It's not just forums though, really content sites, product blogs, even link shorteners and email systems and IM systems. Anywhere where links are flying around, those links can be monetized.
What are some of the technology and market trends that currently exist, and where do you see things developing in the future for your space?
I think the sort of macro trend that's helping us is that the fight for pixels on screen is a zero-sum game. As the advertising grows, the content shrinks, and you really have reached a point of diminishing returns where the advertising can't get any bigger or the content goes away. Google actually just announced yesterday that they're punishing publishers who have too much ad space and not enough content space. Also, yield optimization has done a great job of driving up revenue for the ad space, but that's also a diminishing return. So if you want incremental revenue from your content, you really have to start thinking about the content itself. Companies like Vibrant and Contera have been around for a decade or more, but they really appeal to a certain kind of publisher that doesn't mind the sort of very intrusive ad unit popping up in the content, and we take a much less intrusive approach. Basically, they're selling a display ad unit, and we're selling a click.
What inspired you to start VigLink? How'd you come across the idea, and how'd you discover the opportunity?
So I was in business school. I was really looking for a business to start. I think one of the big lessons for me is I think a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs think, oh, I'll go start a company when I have an idea, and I think it almost never works that way. I think people decide they want to start a company and they go find something interesting, and usually that's not the thing that actually is interesting, but it's the first step. I talked to a lot of different people, and one conversation I had with a mentor of mine, Neil Robertson, somehow we used the phrase bit.ly plus commission junction, and so the original idea was an affiliating link shortener, and then as I was thinking about it, I realized that the links really aren't in link shorteners, they're on pages, and came up with the idea of a JavaScript library, and wrote this crawler, as I mentioned, to go find links and and affiliate them. And really just plunged in, and it, I had probably 100 ideas that I considered, and I shot holes in all of them, and this was the one I couldn't sort of shoot any obvious holes in, so it seemed like the one to go with.
You're the sole co-founder, but I imagine there's an interesting story behind that. How did that work out, and what's that experience been like for you?
Right. I was a little older at business school. I started at 32, which was sort of unusually older, and so I was looking for someone, but I think a mistake that is often made in business school is people hire themselves as their co-founder. So, their co-founder also went to Dartmouth and, did private equity, and they sat next to each other. I was looking for someone, and actually did at one point offer someone to be my co-founder. It didn't work out with her, just for reasons that happen sometimes. That sort of left me a little upset, and so I thought, I can do this myself, and I did it, on my own. I would definitely recommend against that. I think, obviously there's, the cap table looks different with one founder, but I think the disadvantages of, being a sole founder definitely outweigh. I mean, having the wrong co-founder is a terrible situation, but I think having the right co-founder really, I think can help a lot. And it's not so much that you're slower making decisions, it's that sometimes you don't even know the decisions you're not making until a month later. And I think, that is definitely, something I would probably change if I did it again.
From idea to product launch, how long did it take, and when did you actually launch the product?
So it's about a year, but I was in business school when I first had the idea. So I spent 4 months fundraising. I actually pitched 96 investors before someone said yes. That was Josh Koppelman from First Round Capital. I was, a business school student with a technical background, but, one guy with a PowerPoint deck and no code and no customers and no website. So obviously he took a pretty big leap there. It ended up forming a coalition, great set of investors, Google Ventures, Reid Hoffman, a bunch of great guys. I graduated in June and raised the money right as I graduated. I moved out to San Francisco, and the product was in market by January of 2010.
Are there any unique metrics or social proof about VigLink that you'd like to share with the audience?
Absolutely. I mean, we do 5 billion page views a month through our network. It's growing pretty substantially. It really, what's great about it is it's totally incremental to everything people are doing before. So I think, the display ad business is super crowded. If you go look at a company called Luma Partners has this great graph called a Lumascape, which is the sort of landscape of all the companies in the display ad business, and there's just like hundreds of them. And really, for one of them to gain traction on a site, they've got to displace someone else. It's not like that for us, right? For us, it's basically greenfield. Often our biggest competitor is ignorance, just explaining, what we do and that it's incremental revenue, doesn't interfere with anything else you do. So, we've grown, to that from, in about 18 months in the market, coming on 2 years. We feel great about the future. Revenue is trending well, and things are looking good.